Hi, in this lesson we are going to use collage pieces that are of solid value, and they're going to be on the darker scale of values. So if you took a value scale of 1 to 10 and had there being 10 different values, we're going to work with the 5 darkest values, and that would also include black. So I'm going to work with a 6x8 canvas, but I'm going to tone it with a raw umber burnt sienna mix. Okay, so I'm toning this with, it's a mixture of raw umber and burnt sienna, and it's a 6x8 canvas, and it's acrylic paint. And I'm using acrylic just because it obviously dries faster. And but you can if you don't have acrylic, go ahead and use oil. You're obviously just going to need to let it dry before you can start working on it. So I'm just going to work at getting this covered in no particular fashion. All right, so I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll transfer our image. Homemade piece of carbon paper. At this point, mine is probably charcoal and pencil. Flip it over, line it up, and we're just going to start to trace the image. Yeah, and I kind of figured that was going to happen. It's very faint just because the background's pretty dark. So I'm just going to go over, I can still kind of see it, but I want to see it a little better before I start another project. So I'm just going to just sketch over it where I know I can, and just obviously use this too as a reference, just so I can see it a little better. They do sell colored dressmaker's carbon paper. So if you ever run into this, you could, if you have some on hand, or if you want, feel so inclined to go get some, you can use the colored, brighter carbon paper that's just store-bought. Okay, so there that is, and these are my 5 different shades of paper. And also I have sent you the values as in one of the images. I've taken a picture of the darker values, and these are the lighter values, and I've made them as one document, so you do have that as a reference. You can either print it out, or you can maybe even just use it from the monitor, your monitor. So I have picked these 5 values according to these 5 darker values here. And if you squint at this gauge with a piece of paper, if you squint, you can kind of see what value this paper is closest to. And I'm thinking it is closest to the value number 5, this lightest value. So that is my value number 5. And then this is going to be my value number 4. And again, some of these I really had to squint at to discern what value these colors are. And that's how I made my decision. And I just went down through and found that these were the closest to the values that I made. So this is my value 5, 4, 3, my value 2, which is this one here, and then my value 1. And if you squint, it's a lot easier to see though that value. So I'm going to start with the value number 5, and I'm going to use it for the side of the face that's in shadow, as well as the neck and this piece of the hair. I'm going to start with that, and I need to find my scissors. And I have my reference image up on my computer monitor. So that's what I'm lining up here. It's a part of her face that's in shadow. So I'm also not only lining up with the shadow side of her face, but also the shadow that's falling on her neck and shoulder here. I'm going to have it come down to that. Have it come over to the collar line. The next piece is going to be value 1, which was the black. And let's see, and I'm going to use it for this side of the hair. So I kind of have to, I'm going to have it overlap this piece, so let's see. And then we're also going to take this dark value, this value 1, and do these collar pieces. Okay, so now I'm using value 2. Up a little above this line here. And tear it. Like that. So before I glue this down though, I don't want to lose the drawing that's under it. Okay, now I'm going to take the value 4. No, sorry, this is going to be value 3. This is value 3. So there's a seam in her dress. I am just going to maybe use that as a marker here. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it looks like it's all right. Will it work here? See if we need to make any adjustments. I think I want to make this a little bit more defined. The cap on her sleeve. A little more defined, maybe even more. Okay, unfortunately my camera shut off and I didn't realize it, so I'm just going to have to walk you through it here. What I first did was I laid down this value 5 on the side of the face and her neck and up into her hair. So it's covering the side of her face that is in shadow. It is covering the part of her neck and shoulder that's in shadow, and then part of her hair. And then what I did after that was the value 1, which is the black, and just had it go along the hairline here, and then just a little organic, whatever shape you wanted to do up along the top and outline of her hair. And then I did the 2 collar pieces in the black as well. And after that, I did value 2, which is this one here, which is under that line that goes across her breasts, and then this side of her, and then this arm here. And I drew in a little bit here what the bodice is doing, just so I kind of know where that line is. And then this piece here too, the forearm of her, this arm here. And then I did value 3, which is this piece here, goes along the upper part of her chest and then the side of her body. And then value 4, which is the upper arm and shoulder over here. And I also wanted to put a piece of the value 4 up along here too. So I'm just gonna do that now. Now I'm gonna just look around and see what I can do to just define it a little bit more. And I think I want to put a piece of black in here. Okay, now I'm just gonna put that left side of our face back in. Okay, so here is our finished collage piece. I am now gonna put some clear gesso on top of the collage. If you're using acrylic paint, you don't need to put the gesso on. I'm going to use oil. So it's a good idea to put gesso on your paper when you use oil. All right. So that's pretty well covered. Okay, now that the gesso is dry, I'm just going to give it a light sanding. Okay, I need to pause here and interject something. I applied too much gesso onto the dark paper. When you're applying gesso onto dark paper, you need to use a lighter coat, and it's best if you don't sand it. I typically sand just to knock the grit down a little bit, but if you're gesso over dark paper, don't sand it because it'll lighten it. Sometimes you're able to knock that lightness down with a little bit of paint thinner, but it didn't happen in this case. Okay, so I've put out some burnt umber and some burnt sienna and some titanium white. What I want is 3 values, the white, and then value 9 and value 8 on the value scale. Okay, so value 10 is white, and then we're going to do a mix up value 9 and a value 8 using burnt sienna and the titanium white. And I'm not sure how much we need, but let's just mix up enough. And we can compare it to the value scale. Yeah, I'm going to say that those two are about a 9 and an 8. Okay, so I have some relatively inexpensive small brushes here that I'm going to use. And I'm going to start off with the Burr Number. So right now, what I'm doing is playing around with my minimal values, just to see what kind of variety I can get using just those two values that I mixed up. I haven't gone in with white yet, but I'm just kind of playing around and seeing what's possible. Okay, I'm going to get a bigger brush and just go in and play around with the hair, I guess. See what's going on with that. Throw in some highlights. You know, since I have kind of messed up this paper, unfortunately, with the gesso, and maybe I didn't even need to get the gesso in down here, I'm going to go back in with some black paint and pull this black paper back out. Here she is after I put in some dark washes, and I am going to call her done. I think she's pretty cool. Okay, and there she is. I hope you enjoyed that lesson of working with the dark values. I think next time we're going to work with the lighter end of the value scale. So until then.